We're talking to Mr. RPatton and Mr. Matthew Walker. And Mr. Walker, let's begin with you by having you to give us what you might consider to be the legacy of the sit-in movements and the freedom rides and et cetera, and how we might be able to use that as a teaching tool.
Well, I think one of the things about the legacy, and the legacy is extensive, but one of the things about the legacy is that at the time of the sit-ins, I was 18 years old. A number of others were 18, 19 in that area, and I believe that what happened was that youngsters in 1960 assumed a certain amount of social responsibility as far as taking this action for change. I would hope, as others would hope, that youngsters today would assume a like amount of social responsibility, and since they don't have the same kind of barriers that we have, recognize that things have gotten much better due to a lot of sacrifice made by those who came before them, and I should hope they would be inspired to be more serious about their education, be more serious about their behaviors in some instances. It's very sad that less than 50% of our students graduate from high school. It's very sad that we have young men walking around with their pants hanging low, behaving in ways that are detrimental. Unmanly, number one, detrimental to themselves and others, giving negative images about themselves, and they think this is something good. I just hope that some of our experiences, some of the sacrifice that others before us and during our time made, can be made plain to them, that they can see there is a much bigger and brighter future for them if they would look at the big picture and not just get caught up in those things that are glamorized as far as the hood, thug life, and this type of thing. I do believe also it would be good if some of the lessons learned during the 60s could be made a part of the regular curriculum in the public school system here in Nashville. I understand that other cities have incorporated their civil rights experiences into their school curriculum. Nashville, as the Athens of the South, was the first major city to integrate its public facilities, and I think that, plus the fact that the most disciplined civil rights sit-in movement took place in Nashville during that time, I think that leaves the onus on Nashville to make this more institutionalized as far as official Nashville is concerned. It's a shame that we have so few historical markers about this thing. It's a shame that we don't have a civil rights museum here in Nashville. We're still hoping that the city administration can make some formal proclamation about this 50th anniversary here in Nashville, so that we can continue to live up to our image as the Athens of the South.
So there's a real buried heritage in all of this. Is that what we're saying?
Well, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And that's as simple as I can put it. I think along with when he was talking about the 50% non-graduates, I also would like to say we always talk about our young men. When we were young, you had to respect young ladies. And I'm saying let's let the young ladies, they need to learn about respect and demand respect. And I always believe that that is a possible chance that if a young lady has respect for herself, then that young man has got to do the right thing.
And he will.
He's got to do the right thing.
He will.
James Brown said it best. It's a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman.
That's right.
So all these young ladies have to do.
To demand respect.
Demand respect.
That's right.
That's the basis.
Yeah, that's the basis.
We were taught respect. To respect our mothers, to respect our sisters. I mean, if you know anything about the past, one of the biggest fights that you could get into was to say something about somebody's mother or their sister.
There you go.
See, because we respected them. All I'm saying to the young ladies is demand respect. And that will, I think that will help the young men.
Oh, yes. I think that will get it. You see, I think I've been involved in higher education long enough, in the classroom long enough to know that to be true. That if the young women demand respect, young men will grudgingly give it, but they will give it.
They will give it. And I think if these young ladies would stop showing their belly button, and their cleavage and all the other things that they show, that also would help.
Oh yes.
You don't have to be in fashion, and we were talking about the drop pants. I don't think a lot of young men know where that actually came from. I believe that thing with the pants came from the prison.
I understand it did.
It came from the prisons, and what that was saying was, I'm available to you.
Oh, yeah.
See?
Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
I'm
Yes.
available to you.
And now
Here it
they've
is.
incorporated into their daily kind of situation
Right,
without
right.
understanding the real meaning
The
of it
real
in a
meaning.
closed society kind of
That's
situation.
right.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
understand that.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we've crusaded against this for the last 12, 15 years. There's no doubt about it. But nevertheless, I think that every time we get somebody here, we say something to the young men and young women about education and whatever. But one of the things I often hit up on when I speak to this, dealing with young people, is that it's a tremendous privilege that we enjoy being able to receive this education. You know, when you've got a situation and people might talk about increased tuition and et cetera, but if you look at some of the peers of some of these young men in other countries, in countries that are not as fortunate as the United States, they would do anything if they had an opportunity to get any kind of education when they are going to school on the outside with blackboards under trees and et cetera. So we just don't seem to understand that.
And these kids, it's all there. I mean, just think what it would have been like in the 60s if we'd had a computer.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's
or
right.
if we could text, or a cell phone.
It really would have opened things up.
Oh, with the mentality that we had then, these youngsters would be, I don't know, light years ahead of what they are now, simply because of what we would have had.
And so it's real determined. Well, what about this idea of mentoring? I mean, we talk about the need for mentors and et cetera. What do the two of you think about that?
I think it's something that we need to take a little more seriously.
Good.
Even though it can be a risky business, I think the potential for gain is worth the risk, because we know the statistics about young black youth today, and we just can do better as far as mentoring is concerned. And I think what needs to happen is some of these organizations, some of your social clubs, fraternities, sororities, churches, if they would get behind a mentoring program so that those who participated would know that the proper safeguards are in place, I think that mentoring could be expanded much further than it is. It's not always a case of throwing money to a problem, but if you could just have positive role models, interact with some of these kids, some of these young men especially who have no father figure to look up to, it would go a long way to letting a young African-American male know what it takes to be a man. Because the models they look at nowadays are not good role models for being a man.
They often very not.
We don't want youngsters to model themselves after the dope dealer, for example.
Okay, good.
So we've got to have some of these men out here who are responsible, sacrifice some time, and spend time taking the youngsters to the baseball game or go fishing or just whatever kind of situation would work.
Rip, we've got about a minute and 20 seconds before we end the show for today. Some final
Well, just about the mentoring, I just had an experience today where a young man invited me to his school, second grader invited me to his school, and he said, I want you to come to my show and tell. And I thought I was just going to be a guest at his show and tell. Didn't know what he was going to talk about. I was the show. I ended up being the show. And it's a young man that I'm a part of. As the old Africans say, it takes a village. And I'm just a part of a village in his life. And of course, when I see young men in church, I'm always questioning them about their schoolwork, about their clothes, and all that. And they know when they see me, about the ties and those who wear ties. And I don't want them sagging pants.
As a final statement, a lady called me the other day and said that she had a young man that she knew that she wanted me to talk to, and et cetera. So people are aware of that, and I think that plays a very, very important part. And let me thank the two of you, as well as the others that we talked to. dealing with this 50th anniversary celebration. And it's strange that it was 50 years ago. You know, it makes the two of you seem old, I would imagine, having participated in it. Okay, but let me thank the two of you for coming by.
You.
Let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and good night.